after more energy. And if you had this, when you had the change in administration, it was one of the first things that they signaled is that America wants to be like Germany when it comes to energy. And as for me, no thank you. I do not want that at all. The press conference today was a lot better than the one he had before when he said minor incursion is cool.
Yeah.
And so maybe that will help. I give them I will say they are obviously much more organized and forthcoming with information than they were on Afghanistan.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a low bar. And I know low bars.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? But in terms of Germany and in terms of their, not really being a part of NATO, or so it seems, they're not a part of NATO. The truth is that Jen Psaki, when asked a question, started talking about the fact that, we want to be a leader in green energy. And, we really can't be worried about oil and fossil fuels right now. I mean, except that's how we're living.
That's how we live. And we were pretty damn close to being energy independent. And that became, and the whole point of being, let's say, less involved in the Middle East, that's how we got to that stage. Jesse brought up an interesting point. If we do nothing and Russia invades, no one's ever going to give up their nukes again. They might. I mean, like if you go to North Korea, you go, I'm not giving them up. Now I'm going to say something real. I don't know much about what's going on. My mother-in-law is in Kiev right now, so I'm worried. But has anybody?
Did you send her to Kiev?
No, terrible.
You saw, I was just
Well, at least she's not watching, so she didn't hear that joke. Well, yes, I did. But has anyone asked Putin publicly or just what he wants? And I missed it. Like, what does he want?
He wants Ukraine not to be admitted to NATO.
Fine then. Done. We're good. Like, what do I care? Go ahead.
That's
Go ahead.
No,
How about
but
Crimea?
they always ask for something more.
Yeah.
But he wanted Crimea, and no one said anything.
When does it stop then? Because that's the challenge. And when just trying to look at this, the minute it was George H.W. Bush, and blame Bill Clinton, it was H.W. Bush also that agreed for
Bill signed it.
But what's history? But my own point is, what would he take next? I mean, he wants to reconstitute his greatest desire, Putin, is to reconstitute the USSR. So do we want the beginning blocks of it? I don't, and I just think it's partisan.
Is it something like us deciding that? Trying to think of an out, like us putting troops on Cuba. I mean, it's like
Cuba was never part of our country. Ukraine was a part of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a big
then
part.
I'm more sympathetic to Russia then, I guess.
So you're saying we should invade Canada?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's what I
Canada.
want.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
I already did that one.
Now, there's a reason I like Kate McKinnon. I have so much respect for her as a talent. She's so even-handed in her political commentary.
Fox News host Laura Ingraham reacts to Kate McKinnon's impressions of her on Saturday Night Live.
I'm Laura Ingraham, and as soon as I marry your dad, I'm sending you straight to boarding school.
But she's not the only one. Candace Owens has some thoughts on her impersonation, too.
Martin Luther King would have voted for Trump.
Hello to you, too.
But first, let's get back to Laura. Over the weekend, SNL's Cold Open featured Kate's most recent take on the conservative TV personality.
Well, we're finally done with year one of Biden's presidency. And can we all admit it's a disaster? Inflation's out of control. Gas is at $19 a gallon, and the green M&M has been canceled just for being a whore.
It didn't take long for Laura to see the bit. So at the close of Monday's The Ingram Angle, the Connecticut native offered up her best impression.
Now, there's a reason I like Kate McKinnon. I have so much respect for her as a talent. She's so even-handed in her political commentary, but seriously, think of all the low-hanging fruit provided by Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Little PDB and the
Good for
squad
you.
on a near-daily basis. I mean, I think this is kind of comedy gold, don't you?
But it seems there's no hard feelings because Laura also had this to say.
I like doing Kate McKinnon, doing me. Because she's kind of fun, right? She's very even-handed in her political humor. People say she doesn't make fun of the other side. I'm sure she does. Wait, they're telling me she doesn't?
It was such a blast. But someone not too happy with their SNL spoof is Candace Owens.
Martin Luther King would have voted for Trump.
Hello to you, too.
Liberals try to make everything about race. To quote the only words that Martin Luther King ever said, I have a dream. That's it. End of quote.
That's SNL star Ego Nwodim parroting the political commentator in the same sketch with Kate.
Now, it's my greatest honor to continue to fight for African Americans, no matter how many times they ask me to stop.
Thank you, Candace.
Well, Candace saw the skit and shared her thoughts on Twitter. Posting a photo of Ego as her and tagging the SNL Twitter account, she writes, quote, Hey SNL, not sure who this woman is you have playing me, but I am much better looking than this. Adding, next time just reach out and I'll play myself. That way the skit will actually be funny and America might even tune into the show again. A couple hours later, Ego seemingly responded to Candace's tweet, writing, quote, The irony is that I'm actually a bad bitch. For the record, my name is Ego. I can't be bullied.
We can't tell you what's going to be on air because we genuinely don't know.
When E.T. caught up with the comedian and her SNL castmate Heidi Gardner ahead of the new season, she said it's ever-changing current events that keep the show fresh.
So that always just feels like added pressure. But as far as the news cycle, keep the news coming. Please, we need ideas. That's what keeps the show on air. Ideas abound via news. So yeah, I'm all for a quick moving cycle.
Not going very well. You. Whoopi Goldberg reportedly threatening to quit after getting suspended from the show for 2 weeks over her comment about the Holocaust. Whoopi's co-hosts are said to be furious with the decision. Here's how the
Cancel me, do whatever the heck you want. But I'm always going to state the truth. And the truth today is that Black Lives Matter exploited the death of George Floyd and made millions off of what they call the pain of black people. Can you believe it? I'm still here, living inside this tent for 100 days, from November the 20th to February 28th, bringing to you the issues and awareness that you need to know about the violence on the south side of Chicago, but also to raise as much money as we possibly can to build a community center on this much-needed block called O Block. It's called O Block because it's named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs took the O in his name and started calling it O Block. We decided we're going to keep the O, but we're going to change it to Opportunity Block. I want to thank Fox and Network for giving me the opportunity every day to bring you the Rooftop Revelations, where I share with you my thoughts, viewpoints, and opinions. Cancel me, do whatever the heck you want. But I'm always going to state the truth. And the truth today is that Black Lives Matter exploited the death of George Floyd and made millions off of what they call the pain of black people. This is simply reprehensible. I just read the Washington Examiner report that said millions are unaccounted for. After all the three original Black Lives Matter leaders have currently resigned, the amount given was 60 million. 60 million, I believe, is probably far more. If there's no accountability within Black Lives Matter board, and if there's such shadiness within the organization over all the money, then you can bet there's even more money that's being hid. What angers me is how disrespectful and selfish Black Lives Matter is. They claim to care about black people more than anyone. But where are they? I don't see them around here. Believe me, we got plenty of work around here to do. And we would have no problem putting them to work. If Black Lives Matter really matters, then why aren't they here? Do they not see the same weekly headlines that we all see? What makes me especially mad is that we have had black lives and blacks like these who milk black pain for money ever since we came out of slavery. We call them trickster figures. When Booker T. Washington wrote these words over 100 years ago, he was describing to me BLM today. He says, and I quote, "There's a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy, and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Let me repeat. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances. Let that sink in, folks. You know who they're talking about? The folks right here in these streets. They want these folks to stay beaten down and downtrodden. They want to hold up the very people whose lives are being that they're trying to improve for the last 20 years. And they want to hold these people up to Americans and say, see how bad you treat us, give us money. That's what Black Lives Matter does. While buying houses for themselves all over America and headquarters in Canada. The article even said that Black Lives Matter folks dropped nearly $26,000 for meetings at a Malibu resort. Dang, it hurts me even to say the word Malibu as much as I'm freezing out here in Chicago, trying to raise awareness for the real problems that my people are going through. It shames me to see brothers and sisters exploiting our pain. It truly does. Let that be a dark mark on the heads of BLM. The jig is up. Meanwhile, the work continues here every day. We continue to mentor, we continue to counsel, we continue to offer pathways, opportunities, and we will never stop doing what we are called to do because that's what we have to do. If we're ever going to change the lives of people on the south side of Chicago and inner cities across the world, we must continue to work and not follow the example of BLE. Well, as I always say, these are just my thoughts, viewpoints, and opinions. Thank you for tuning in to Rooftop Revelations. God bless you, God bless America, and until tomorrow, peace.
Lives Matter organization is halting online fundraising after facing scrutiny for missing financial records. The California Department of Justice threatening to hold the foundation's leaders personally liable if they fail to disclose details of the $60 million in donations that it received in the next 2 months. Here now is Andrew Kerr, Washington Examiner investigative reporter. Incredible work, Andrew. What do you know right now about these developments?
Right, so Black Lives Matter is a public charity. That means that they have an obligation to disclose basic information about their finances to the public, information about their leadership, and information about where they actually reside. And Black Lives Matter has provided none of that information. Information on their 2020 finances, a year in which they closed out with $60 million in their bank accounts, is months late. We tried to go to their Los Angeles address, my colleague did, last week and was told by a security guard that Black Lives Matter has never had an office here, and we constantly get packages every week for Black Lives Matter that we have to return back to sender. And their board members won't disclose who has been in charge of the charity for the past 8 months. When its co-founder Patrisse Cullors left the organization last May amid scrutiny over her own personal real estate purchases, she appointed 2 co-executive directors to lead the organization. But they quietly announced in September that we're not taking the job because we can't come to an agreement with Black Lives Matter. So amid all of this, the state of Washington and California have recently notified Black Lives Matter that, hey, if you guys want to operate in our state, then you need to submit your financial information. Until you do so, you are not to solicit any contributions from citizens of our state. Washington warned Black Lives Matter in a letter a few weeks ago that you could face fines upward to $2,000 per violation, and California said that we will hold the leaders and everybody that's in charge of solicitation at Black Lives Matter personally accountable if you don't submit your records within 60 days. So yesterday, Black Lives Matter took the extraordinary step, and they announced that we're going to pause all online fundraising as we get our registration issue sorted out. But this is some breaking news from just before I came on air. It turns out that Black Lives Matter is still accepting donations from their Act Blue donation pages. They told me just before we came on the air that these are not active fundraising pages. These are former fundraising pages, which doesn't really make sense because I was able to pitch $1 to Black Lives Matter, proving that they're still actively accepting contributions despite their statement yesterday that they are no longer going to be soliciting funds online. This is a developing story. Black Lives Matter is they have registration issues in about 9 states, and if they don't submit their information, then they're soon going to be out of compliance in more.
And there's states, as you've reported, that kind of dot the country, from Maine to North Carolina and Virginia, New Jersey, New Mexico, and Maryland and Connecticut. There's so many questions I have for you, Andrew, but what about the companies? You would think that the companies that donated money to the Black Lives Matter organization, here are just some of them: Airbnb, beauty brand Glossier, Spanx, Tom's Shoes, Lululemon. Why aren't those company executives standing up and publicly saying, where's the accounting of this?
Same companies, if you follow the chain, the same companies that pay our police departments. They pay our local, state police. They pay their paychecks. Citizens do no longer pay their police. So the same ones that donate all this money to Black Lives Matter, the 60 million just comes right back into their pocket, goes back up to the top of the chain and trickles down just like the Federal Reserve and any other Ponzi scheme.
Their money. It's been 2 years. Their reporting was due months ago, and it's been radio silence from what is perhaps the most influential social justice charity in the country.
What about additional investigations? Do you think that there will be an even deeper dive, a bigger dive?
I'll also say, too, it's the same shit that they did when they took over the Panthers. The Black Panthers had some good ideas. They were trying to help their community. And then as soon as the FBI and the CIA got involved, which they did undercover and put agents in there, then they started dropping crates of machine guns and guns into the alleys and doing all the same shit that they played out under Obama for the gang members in Chicago. Same fucking thing. They played the same thing in history, all programmed. And if you have to read between the lines of what people are telling you, because Larry Pinckney cannot come out and tell you the whole story because he can't. You have to read between the lines of what he's saying. Think about what he wants to say to you. He's trying to tell you. And it's the same fucking story that's happening now with Black Lives Matter. We do it all the time.
Their documents. All they need to do is provide the documents that they're required to disclose upon request that were due back in November. And until they do that, I think that they're going to face just more and more scrutiny from more and more states across the country.
Andrew Kerr, please come back. Terrific reporting. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Andrew Kerr of the Washington Examiner. I encourage everybody to go read his investigative work. One of
the leaders of the Black Lives Matter organization, who calls herself a trained Marxist, is now being called a fraud after property records showed Patrisse Cullors shelled out millions of dollars on 4 luxury homes. One of them in Los Angeles' exclusive 88% white Topanga Canyon. This, as the Associated Press reports, Black Lives Matter took in some $90 million in donations last year. Now remember, this is the organization. The movement with people in the streets, they're not getting rained down on by cash. Now other people in the organization want an investigation into the group's finances. The head of the New York chapter of BLM.org also wants a close look at Cullors' personal finances, saying a self-professed socialist should ask how much of their own money is going to charitable causes. Oh, this is interesting. Pete Hegseth.
You know what? She's actually a very well-trained Marxist. It's because she's a member of the bourgeoisie. She controls the means of production. It's the proletariat, the masses that get to enjoy the fruits of Marxism. Like all those local chapters of Black Lives Matter that are having to do GoFundMe pages because they've never seen any of the money from the central machine, which is raised up to $90 million and growing. So this doesn't surprise me at all. She got the ability to have access to cash and wealth because through a movement which has metamorphosized ever since, and she's being called out for it. And hopefully there is an investigation. We don't know where she got the money and how she earned it, and maybe she turned into a capitalist. But those Marxists have a way of enriching themselves when they're at the top.
You know, Kennedy, I make such a point of saying that the movement versus the organization, right? Because we know that the organization's fundraising, they're doing all sorts of things, and we don't have eyes on that money. And as Pete says, maybe it's a good idea not just because of the house buying, but just in general, since there's so many promises made to the people in the streets. But they're, you know, it's not like they're members. They're just in the streets because they want social justice. So what do you think they need to know about this situation?
That the people, you know, and obviously it's important to make that differentiation. I'm glad you did. Because there are people for whom the phrase Black Lives Matter resonates. It means something to them, and it is a cause worth fighting for. There are other people who are really, really good at marketing, and it's funny that they call themselves socialists because they're really hyper-capitalists. And, you know, again, I love capitalism, and I'll go ahead and give her the benefit of the doubt. I have no idea how much they paid in taxes, if they paid any money in taxes, if they're a 501c3. But let's say she made her money in GameStop and Bitcoin, and if that's the case, and she participated in the thriving aspects of the free market economy that have not been tamped down by the federal government, then good for her. Real estate in LA, always a great investment. So in that respect, I'm very, very proud of her.
I just want to dip my toe in the water real gently here in the river of hypocrisy. Can we? Just for a moment. I'll put my flip-flop back on in a second. Kaylee, I'm just wondering, you know, you're talking about social justice, particularly for people of color. Why not take those funds that you've earned, maybe, you know, Dogecoin, wherever she got rich, paid her taxes, did whatever, as Kennedy points out, we don't know. But why not take that back to a neighborhood of color or a neighborhood where, you know, you can be among the people? I don't know. I'm just simply asking the question. You can live wherever you want, but you're preaching something different.
Yeah, one would think a self-proclaimed trained Marxist would do exactly what you just described, but she didn't. But look, to Kennedy's point, if she got these funds through a legitimate way, not through the BLM fundraising mechanism, good for her. Look, she came from public housing. She writes about in her book, she grew up in public housing. Her mom was a mom of 4 and worked 16-hour days, and their only grocery store was the 7-Eleven. She came from very humble beginnings and now has risen to great heights. So good for her, except this. That is the American dream, what we're describing, but she professes an ideology directly at odds with the American dream. Trained Marxists, but trained Marxists often do this. Bernie Sanders, a self-proclaimed Democrat socialist, makes millions.
Right, but you guys are not thinking about it. You're always playing off against them because you have bankers. I don't see you bitching about the bankers. They do the same thing you're describing that Black Lives Matter just did. Same thing, acting on this capitalist thing. And you're saying that they're doing it unfairly and it's not fair to the people. Well, what the fuck about a bank? What about getting charged $1.50 to $3.50, $4.50 even at an ATM machine to go get your money? More and more banks are closing down and they're just leaving you with ATM machines to deal with. They don't have to pay even salaries for tellers anymore or maintenance crew or anything like that. It's all part of the AI of things. And they're selling everyone on Bitcoin and getting everyone to go over to the computer version of the monetary system is just going to be on a card now. The cash is going to go away. It's a fucking nightmare, the whole thing. That's what I was saying in the last video. There's too much to even talk about. Your head will be fucking spinning. That's why I'm saying put it all down. Go look at what I'm trying to show you people. And it'll all become clear, but everyone's got to go look. You have to go look to see how meaningless all this other shit is, you know? Where the fuck are they?
Have a way of enriching themselves when they're at the top.
You know, Kennedy, I make such a point of saying that the movement versus the organization, right? Because we know that the organization's fundraising, they're doing all sorts of things, and we don't have eyes on that money. And as Pete says, maybe it's a good idea, not just because of the house buying, but just in general, since there's so many promises made to the people in the streets. But they're, you know, it's not like they're members. They're just in the streets because they want social justice. So what do you think they need to know about the situation?
That the people, that, you know, and obviously it's important to make that differentiation. I'm glad you did. Because there are people for whom the phrase Black Lives Matter resonates. It means something to them, and it is a cause worth fighting for. There are other people who are really, really good at marketing, and it's funny that they call themselves socialists because they're really hyper-capitalists. And, you know, again, I love capitalism. And I'll go ahead and give her the benefit of the doubt. I have no idea how much they paid in taxes, if they paid any money in taxes, if they're a 501c3. But let's say she made her money.
Capitalism is such a Ponzi scheme. It really is. You know, we take all the land from the Indians, and you know, hundreds of years later, we allow them to open up their casinos, and that supposedly, you know, gambling's illegal except for on an Indian base and all this kind of thing, or you have to go to Las Vegas to make it legal, to a certain state that makes it legal. Bullshit. Every old person that I know, I watch them in the stores playing scratch tickets. They're on a very tight income as it is, and this travels across all races. But I worked at one place in Springfield where it was all the Mexicans and the Puerto Ricans that were buying scratch tickets by the tens of thousands of dollars a day, and they'd stand outside the store all fucking day scratching tickets and spending all their money, whether they were working or not. Even if they were collecting a welfare check or something like that, if that was the case, because that was usually the bitch. And be like, yeah, but you're giving it back to the government anyway. They're giving it back to the government. So who cares? So let them be, you know. It's really fucking crazy the way that it all works, because those are all government run. All those Powerball and all that. So gambling's okay as long as you do it through them, you know. It doesn't make any sense, man. And then anybody else that gets caught having a poker game with high stakes of hundreds of dollars even or whatever, they'll go to jail. It fucking makes no sense. Or even somebody betting on sports, right? You're betting on sports and whatever, you got to go to a bookie. So that's illegal, but yet governments can go ahead and addict all kinds of different age groups and different nationalities onto scratch tickets and Powerball and all these kind of crap like that. It's not right, man. It's fucked up.
So that when things happen, they don't have to loot and break things. They actually have a few.
My point is that Fox News thinks that never talks about those things. Those things seem to go right over their head. That's what I'm saying about one side playing off against the other. You know, they'll be bitching and moaning, bring up all kinds of great facts, you know, about Black Lives Matter stealing a bunch of money, but no one's saying anything about, you know, the bankers stealing everyone's money. That becomes okay. That's acceptable. The Ponzi scheme known as the Federal Reserve. Nobody adds up their paycheck and says, all right, well, you got everybody working, these small people, just, you know, which is the majority of us. Don't make shit for money, all right? So you got a third of your check is taken away for income tax. And then on top of that, You can't write anything off. There's nothing you can write off because you're just a renter, a homeowner, a basic person. You only make maybe, let's say, 50 to 150,000 a year, let's say, or whatever, because that's only average now. That's not even, or I should say, below quality of life living nowadays. Why? Because look at all of the other things. It's not only inflation, but the facts that rents were already up there as it is. So the inflation that's happened over the last 30 years gets ignored, but all of a sudden you have a big jump in it now over the last few years. Homeowners, everything goes up to be a homeowner, let's say. The prices of owning a home and everything like that goes up. They don't raise the interest rates yet. They wait. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're going to raise the interest rates. And then things are really going to get terrible. I mean, they already are. They already are, but it's just going to get worse and worse. But there's no real bitching about that. That should be, you should be comparing the two. If you were a fair news group, if Fox News was being fair about it, they would say, oh, this things that Black Lives Matter just did, it's almost like they work for Chase Bank. It's almost like they're an affiliate of Chase Bank, because this is the exact same thing and it's every bank, it's everybody, it's fucking everything, right? Or they could compare it to Bitcoin and say, oh, the people that invented Bitcoin, this is the same thing they did. Or, oh, this is the same thing they did when they set up the Federal Reserve. Or, oh, this is the same thing when they took all lands, when governments took our lands and said that they're protecting them and they're going to be protected lands, instead of just allowing everyone to live on the land free and let them live amongst themselves. Then it's kind of worth going to work every day and busting your balls when you actually can own something. That was the original intent that we thought we signed up for when all those boats were coming in over, when you guys were talking about immigration from the Germans, the Polands, the French, the Italians, and everybody that wanted to come here, the Irish, the Scottish, and we were all pretty mixed up, pretty damn good. And then you got the Africans, the Haitians, and the Asians, and everybody coming in, mixing up in this country pretty damn good. So there was no reason to fuck everybody. There's plenty of land for everyone. What we did was we put it under a capitalist words. It's only words. It's nothing ever held, as we went along. And anything that we did because we were programmed to do it first, and then we did it. No matter what it is, we were always programmed first. That's what I was saying to Candace about she was talking about the Depression, the Great Depression. Yeah, it was self-inflicted. It was self-inflicted, like everything is self-inflicted. So whether a Democrat self-inflicts it, whether a Catholic Church self-inflicted it, or the Christians themselves, or the Jews, or the Germans, or the Polacks, or the Russians, it's always self-inflicted. And the top of our chains, all around, all on this earth. It's not just one country, it's everyone. So if you're only going to be a nationalist and you're only going to pay attention to what's going on in this country, you're going to be missing a big part of it, and you're not going to stand any chance to win. Once you go look at the system, hopefully, I hope that people are out there looking at these videos. I hope that you're don't have to listen to me. Don't have to listen to nothing I say. I don't want to debate and argue with everybody about all this shit on Fox News, because it's too much. You're dragging everyone down rabbit holes, and there's no figuring anything honest out by doing that. So if you want to argue about your Second Amendment rights, don't bother. Change the channel. If you want to argue about sex, genders, and how all that, don't bother. If you're not going and looking at what I'm showing you everywhere, then you're not going to fucking see it. You're just going to argue back and forth with everybody. And I don't want to be one of those people to argue back and forth. I'm showing you everything that you guys are talking about in politics, arguing about back and forth, will all just go away. You won't even be thinking about them anymore. There'll be no care about them. You'll know that, see them for what they are, a bunch of bullshit, See what Larry's talking about.
Although,
I want Ukraine to be able to choose NATO if that happens. But look, it's not the Ukraine border. Actually, more
I'm
important,
getting to
it's the
know
southern
these
border with Mexico.
newscasters
But I'm
pretty
just
good
saying,
now.
I
They're
don't
all fucking
understand.
liars.
So
A
we
bunch
come
of
back
lying
and beat
motherfuckers,
back
every
better,
one of them.
Build back better, whatever it's called, build back broke. How the heck? I mean, look, Senator, you're terrific. You and I have known each other for 3 decades. How can 18 Republican senators vote for this thing? Because honestly, this is like fiscal outrage. And you know what? Here's the other thing. That infrastructure bill, I probably was too easy on that bill because what we see now is that infrastructure bill is not going to build any bridges, roads, and highways because of EPA requirements, and they're bringing in the Endangered Species Act, and that one federal decision, you know, that was going to move things faster. All that's being broken up. The rug was completely pulled out from under us. The Democrats cannot and will not do anything right when it comes to this. Nothing.
Well, you're right, but see, their religion is climate. And so this is why they're going to make it impossible for our counties and cities to build.
Climate, which is controlled by humans. Climate is controlled by humans. What you call weather is controlled by us. We control it. So here you are on Fox News, all of you guys arguing about Democrats making a big deal out of it when what I'm showing you will go prove your side if you actually cared about it. But you don't. You just want to argue back and forth. You're going to argue and fight back and forth. That's the whole fucking thing. Keep everybody distracted. Keep everyone dumbed down. Keep their heads spinning. Just go show them. Just go show them. But for years, I've been listening to Fox News and radio channels for 30 years now. You know, every radio station you're listening to them, and your local, like Rock 102 or Rock 107, right? When I remember way back when they were ranking out people who were chasing down chemtrails, and I got so fucking pissed I stopped listening to them. Certain things that happen, and you're like, nah, I don't know why even bother listening to the radio. It's just gonna piss me off. Because they're talking about it as if they know something about it. This is way before I found the system. I'm talking about, you know, years ago. I have only found the system over the last 3 years. But I never would have been able to find any of this if I didn't first realize that how do 7.8 billion people all lie to themselves and to each other? How is that possible? Because it seems impossible, right? You would think somebody out there has got to be fucking really awakening and come and tell you some truth. Shit that you can see for yourself, right? Never happened. Never happened. I'm glad I'm able to do that for you guys. For anybody that comes along, you're able to see it all for yourself. You don't have to take anyone's word on any of this shit anymore, because it's all lies. They're lying on every end, every side. They're full of shit. And the truth is much better than what they're selling you.
10% inflation or whatever is not going to make us more competitive around the world. How about
Not at all.
last one on this subject? Then I want to ask you about the China Olympic Games. $8 billion. I'm not making this up. $8 billion is being designated in this bill for the UN Climate Fund. $8 billion. Okay. If I had any hair, ma'am, I'd be.
As I said before, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 now, right? And I think they've got it up to Agenda 2033. This has been out for a long, long time. 20 years Agenda 21 was on the table before they changed it to Agenda 2030. They were working on it. They told us that they were doing it. We knew the whole plan. We knew about China taking over as the new world leader. It was going to be that we gave China all of our business. We gave them all of our factories. We gave them all of our technology. The same way that Germany gave America all of its scientists, technology, and ideas when Germany supposedly fell after Hitler's rule. And then America goes and takes every fucking guidebook that they had, and the American people live by that guidebook, and for some reason still rank out Hitler for killing everybody, you know? As if we didn't know what it was all about. We pretend that we didn't know. Oh, we don't know. You don't know. Bullshit. Every country all working together to do their big plan. It's always been this way. Nothing new.
With
exactly what they say. It
So now we're
doesn't
gonna all
matter
act
if it's
surprised.
Inflation, if it's the economy.
I've been
if
throwing the
it's our
Agenda
sovereignty.
21 thing at my family and stuff lately, and saying, you know, I've been telling you about that. I used to print up, because you can go online back then, and you can print up the UN agendas, and I used to give them out. You know, if one of my cousins, come to work on his car, I would give him 2 or 3 of them and say, you know, give some of these out to the family and stuff like that. They weren't all that much of a read. You know, a couple days of, you know, on your way to going to bed, you read a couple pages here and there, whatever. It was not that big of a deal, but it gave you the gist of what it is that we were going to be going through over the next 50 years, what our kids and our grandkids are going to have to deal with, you know. Nope. No, I'd find them in the trash. I'd go over to their house and find them, you know, in the garbage, or I'd, you know, out with the recycle bin or whatever at my sister's house. I'd find them at my cousin's house sitting under a bunch of shit that's been there for years. Hey, you ever give this a look or what? Fuck no. Oh yeah, I read a little bit of it. Yeah, what did you read? What parts? You know, they don't know nothing about it. They're not gonna look. Not gonna look. Not when you can turn on Fox News and get fucking lied to about something that might make you feel good.
There'll be just another one behind it. But the one thing that makes the Ukraine-Russia issue so important is that China's watching this. Because how this plays out will dictate whether China thinks they can go ahead with Taiwan. So all of these things string together. Iran is watching, and Biden's falling all over himself to get.
You still got a chance to read Agenda 21, because these guys are selling you on China taking over Taiwan. They're not telling you other shit that you'll find in Agenda 2030. If you go read the United Nations agendas, them alone, they're all working together. All the countries are working together to do what they're about to do, and which is tearing apart from within. We're going to rip apart from within, because that's the best way to tear apart a country. Civil war, unrest, and division. Everybody knows that. We all should know this, right? So we're going to play along, keep watching the fucking news and listening to them. Let's go read the United States UN agendas. Tell you everything that they're going to do. So it's not a matter of Taiwan. That's where your eyes will be, on Taiwan. North Korea's eyes are not on South Korea. That's where our eyes are going to be on that. It's not on Russia's eyes on Ukraine. That's what we're looking at. But really, that's not what Russia's real goal is. It's a matter of them all working together. Same thing with Iran, right? We look at Iran and we're seeing them. We look at Israel and see Israel fighting with the Palestinians, and then so we think that that's what we're looking at, that they're all fighting. No. You go read the United States UN agendas, United Nations agendas. When you read UN agendas, it's clear, very clear what the whole deal is, and all these countries all work together in order to do this. Now, if you don't want to play the game and go along with these countries, then you wind up like Saddam Hussein or other people who they made out to be terrible killers that are for some reason, they're all the terrible killers, but we're not. You know, you got this one was creating genocide, just like we're doing with China right now. But we don't look at what we're doing ourselves. We do the same shit. So we can't look within, right? We can't look at ourselves. Fuck no. You know, we're gonna have to have somebody to blame. It's fucking really ridiculous. It really is. And it's even more ridiculous that we all knew about it already and we pretend that we didn't know. And I gotta say, me bringing shit like this to my family and friends over the years, they did the same thing. They all turn their head, they shut their ears off, they will roll their eyes and walk away from it and go watch the news and go open a newspaper and go read a Bible or whatever the fuck they're gonna do to get away from what I'm trying to show them. Nobody wants to face reality. And then now that reality's here and it's getting less and less, you can't deny it anymore. You know, it's becoming undeniable. And as it becomes undeniable, they still deny it. As it happens, I mentioned before, and my phone should be ringing off the fucking hook every day for the shit that I told people over the last fucking 20 years at least, because I didn't give a fuck. This was not my life path. This just all came about me over the last slowly for the first 5, 10 years, and then more so in the last 10 years, right? But I wasn't born with the this outlook, you know. I just wanted to fucking have fun. I would, you know, go have a good time. I just wanted to enjoy my life. I didn't want to think about any of the shit that I'm now showing all of you. You know, this was not my. At least I didn't think it was anyway. I didn't think this was gonna be my route. I should have been fucked up, drunk, on drugs, and like that. That should have been my life. And for some reason, I just didn't like drugs. So, you know, I smoked pot, but I just didn't like drugs. So therefore, I wound up taking this other path. And then my eyes kept opening and opening and opening. And I'm like, oh my God, what a bunch of fucking liars, man. We really are. There's too many. There's too many to go through them all, you know? Especially now that we're running out of time. That's why I'm just trying to show everybody in these videos. I'm trying to show you that you can all go see the reality of our situation for yourself. And it has, there are little bits and pieces of truth that trickle down that will relate to what it is you're seeing. But as I keep saying, everything we've ever been taught, thought, heard, told, programmed, everything we've ever been programmed has been a lie in one way or another. You have to start over again. And this is the way to do it.